Sure. Tom Hartman, Associate Professor, ASU.
What key life experiences have formed who you became today?
Taken off for a school 3-month trip and ended up staying 12 years. So that it led to, finishing school over there and then the professional work, the living in Paris, the school, the kind of education that came from, learning in a giant city where the teachers would send you out, to go see things directly instead of to the library. So a lot of times that was a key life experience. So
Made you sort of passionate or like wanting to become involved with our city?
This was kind of appealing because it was a frontier. I wouldn't say that I arrived passionate and involved in the city. I think Phoenix is a place where there are more interesting clients than there are interesting architects to do the work. Phoenix was a lot more kind of open to experimentation. Still is the thing that I find is the most interesting part of Phoenix, right?
Yeah. Being here, how have your almost like core values reflected in your work as an architect?
Basically, it's sort of being super interested in constraints.
Mhm.
A lot of people say that the constraints just kind of, beat up your great ideas and kind of make them lame. But I found mostly through the work in Piano's office that, I really loved sort of pulling in constraints that kind of frame what you can do and can't do. And I actually am fascinated by that because it's kind of like when you really take a look and you inventory all the things that you can't do, that sounds like bad news. But the other side of that coin is that everything else you can do.
Yeah. And moving towards our city, why do you believe this area is great, or do you think has the potential to be great?
I think Phoenix is kind of a player, it would seem, right? Just kind of sheer size and the kind of attraction that's happening and so on. In a way, Phoenix is kind of being forced to confront the fact that this kind of suburban model doesn't work anymore, right? Everything around this school was 1 or 2 stories. ASU's campus didn't have any tall buildings. And now, it's crazy, right? Causes, projects, and activities are you involved in? Okay,
Yes.
well,
Mhm.
so for me, the practice side is really small scale projects, myself with friends and whatnot, and then collaborations. So I've collaborated on projects with Michael Underhill, with Marwan El Sayed, who's now in Santa Monica on that house I showed you, John Kane at Architect Don on a bunch of little projects, little and big, actually.
How do you collaborate with other people to realize how impactful like your work is?
It goes the different ways. If I'm doing it myself, then I'll just kind of, reach out for collaborations with engineers and all that stuff. When I'm working on a thing at home, and then I go to studio and I talk with my students about the stuff that they're working on, you guys give me ideas that I take back to my work.
Oh, really?
Groups
What
under
other creators have influenced you?
I have more of an affinity with people who are kind of with the constraints like I like to do, and I can admire people. It's like, wow, they did this with a crazy budget or in a weird site or some impossible kind of thing. One of my big heroes is Rem Koolhaas. And then from Renzo, it was all about sort of making beautiful buildings, I think, and kind of pushing all the technical stuff. I admire people that do things different than I do. What would you recommend I do to become a future creator of our great city? We were taught to kind of look at how the city developed, like a time lapse of changes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you imagine a kind of trajectory of the city, slowly but surely it's becoming this, and slowly but surely it's becoming less of that, to try and understand a little bit what its trajectory is, and to try and a little bit imagine where it's going. And maybe you say, well, I don't like where it's going, like more suburbs. Let's try and bend it a little bit in a different way.